The Wishing Well. Oh, fairy tales. Have you ever been under a spell? Ever heard those urban legends and mystic tales of old about magic and witches, giants and elves, where dragons hoard gold and babies are born old? A fairy tale seems to ponder past the imagination and into the societal consciousness. Did you ever believe any of the ones you were told? Once, here in America, I heard a tale from a black man who had a business in the art world. It was around 1974 or 1975. He was a master painter and was dominating the book illustrator market. He was very handsome, yet polite, with a gentleness seldom men possess. He came back to East Union decades after it went to the dogs. He said he grew up here, one drink after the other. I could tell he was in the bar to drink away some long-forgotten sorrow. It was prevalent in the 45-year-old's eyes that he had an ache in his heart, something he dare not speak aloud. Look here, friend. He was my customer, and we were about to close the establishment. Why don't you take this here cigarette and have this pitcher of ice water and take a few puffs? You're the only one in here, and I want to try a new dish on you. I had not lied. I had just baked several shepherd's pies, and since it was the 4th of July, a surprising lack of shadows loomed about my bar. The sad painter had been here in the last hour, and my pies were fresh and hot with nobody to eat them. I served him up a large plate with cornbread and some ginger ale. I wanted him to sober up and to stay out of trouble. East Union wasn't very nice to painters like him anymore, and this particular man was in an extra vulnerable state. So, tastes delicious. No, I mean, what? What is it that seems to have you heartbroken? The handsome man looked up, took off his hat, and told me a very long story. It seemed to me to be a fairy tale, but for 2 hours I listened, and this is what he said. The man told me there was once 2 young boys in East Union. There were 2 little black kids, Lionel and Jeremy. Jeremy looked out for his younger brother, Lionel, who was 2 years younger than him, and the 2 boys, aged 7 and 9, kept to themselves and were generally not the kind to make trouble. They loved each other. Jeremy would read to Lionel his comic books, and Lionel would listen attentively to the stories, as Jeremy would then make Lionel take his medicine. It was for a sickness that the 2 boys never understood. Jeremy loved comics. In fact, he had drawn out many characters in his sketch pads throughout the 9 years of his life, reading and finding inspiration in classic pulp fiction and comics alike. He loved Conan the Barbarian and weird tales the most. Lionel was more into sports despite his sickness, and even though he was much smaller and scrawnier than the other boys, he made up for it in agility and speed. His passion was basketball. However different, the 2 boys were inseparable. One day, as Jeremy and Lionel were leaving Sunday school, where Pastor Franny preached about the dark woods and how nobody should go in there, they overheard a crying woman. "He's gone. They haven't sent me a letter or anything," the crying woman had shouted. "Oh, poor dear," an old lady muttered to herself. "Somebody ought to take her to the well," a man said to the old lady before approaching the young woman, who had no communication from the army about her husband's whereabouts. As the man comforted the young woman, everybody seemed to go back to their business, walking towards their cars. Some child with a wizard cloak and a large book in his pocket walked by, not noticing anything. Lionel asked Jeremy a question. "What did that man mean, the well?" Their grandmother answered instead. "The wishing well is a well that's been here for centuries, and it has magical powers. Whoever throws a penny into it gets one wish." "Oh." Lionel just thought it was folklore until the grandmother brought it up again at family dinner. "You know, I met your grandfather because I wished to find true love." Grandpa chuckled at this and said, "And I got a good job because of it." The two boys rolled their eyes in disbelief, thinking the whole thing kinda corny, until Jeremy had an idea. He told Lionel his idea that night when the radio program had ended. The next day, the two boys went out to the location they had heard from the stories. It was 8 a.m. and they brought rope and a bucket. "Why not bring 2 buckets? We don't want to get caught, and I want to save us some time. We can come back again tomorrow." "What are you going to spend on with the treasure?" Comics. Maybe a new sketch pad, new pencils." Jeremy answered his younger brother's questions quietly. He knew the well was on Old Man Jacobson's farm, and Jacobson was a staunch racist. He wouldn't be too keen to find him on his property. The two boys should have known better when they saw the Confederate flags in the distance. "Well, I'm getting candy and a new ball." Lionel was excited to loot the wishing well with his brother. He was whistling until Jeremy told him to stop. They were near the edge of the wicked wood where the well stood. Someone was already there. The lady who had cried the day before about her husband was there dressed nicely, looking down the well. She tossed in a penny and began to walk away, still crying. They waited until she was out of sight before leaving the bushes they hid in. "Wait, Jeremy," Lionel spoke up. "What if this well is magical? Wouldn't we be stealing wishes from people?" "Nah, it don't work that way. Besides, that's all hocus pocus. No more real than Superman. You see, Lionel, magic ain't real at all." "Okay, I'd just hate it if that nice lady never got to see her husband again." "Husband," Jeremy corrected him. Lionel reluctantly followed his brother to the well. "Why I gotta go in?" "Because, Lionel, you're the only one that can fit. Here." Jeremy fastened the rope securely around Lionel's waist and gave him the bucket. Lionel began down the well, holding on to the sides until Jeremy said it was okay to let go. Then Jeremy lowered him down to the depths below. "It's really dark down here. I'm at the bottom now." There was no answer from above. Jeremy couldn't hear him, or rather, sound didn't travel in this well like it would in any other wishing well. Finally, Lionel filled the bucket up using his sense of touch alone. He had never stood on a pile of pennies before. "Jeremy, I'm ready." There was still no answer. He tugged the rope many times before Jeremy finally began to pull Lionel out. The rope had snapped, being old and rotten from the family garage. "Lionel!" Jeremy shouted. No answer. Not an echo sounded. The two boys shouted each other's names for 15 minutes until they each grew tired of having no answer return. It was soon turning twilight, and Jeremy saw movement in the distance. There were torches and horses and men on those horses. They were wearing white robes and hoods and had guns. Jeremy panicked and ran a ways into the woods. He hid as best as he could amongst thorny branches of the blackberry bushes. He swore to himself he would return each day if he had to, but his luck had never changed. Twilight after twilight, Jeremy returned to the well. He'd lower a better rope, hoping to get a tug or some kind of signal that his brother was still alive. No such signal came. "Well, that's an awful story, Mr. Francis." Jeremy Francis. My customer introduced himself finally. I see. So you've never told your grandparents the truth, I presume?" "No, sir. And they both dead now, too." He finished his cornbread and shepherd's pie and took a large gulp of ginger ale. "Well, it's interesting that you tell me this. That property is now belonging to my cousin," I told the man. Knowing if my cousin knew her property's history, she'd be ashamed. Her father marched in all the civil rights marches of the 50s and 60s. She herself sang blues music in Nashville. Things weren't perfect now, but at least a tiny bit better now in East Union. Say, how about I call her up and see if she's willing to let you excavate that well? She's only attached to it as a history buff, but something tells me she'd have some empathy for you. We can give your brother a proper burial." The man cried some and gave me his hotel room number at the inn where he stayed. I even gave him a ride because his story moved me so. It seemed such a painful burden to have the death of a brother on one's consciousness for over 30 years. Oh, the guilt that Jeremy Francis must feel. "I'll come pick you up in the morning and we'll go meet my cousin, Jana." Now, man, I know it ain't easy, but try to find some room to forgive yourself. You bet I forgive you. You were only 9 years old. Please, try and sleep tonight. The sad painter nodded to my words and tipped his hat, then stumbled towards the hotel lobby where he made his way towards the room. I called Jana and she said she was not busy after 12 o'clock noontime. I went to my new friend's hotel room and knocked. He answered hungover, and we went and got some coffee and donuts from the hotel dining lobby. We headed down the road in my beat-up truck and parked at Jana's driveway near her house. The well could be seen in the distance, and the man had a hard time looking away from it. First things first, I told him. We knocked, and Jana let us in. She fed us lunch, and we ate and caught up, and I told Jeremy to tell Jana what he had told me. He recounted his story again, and as he broke into tears at the end of his tale, Jana did too, and offered him a hug. She grabbed a box of tissues, and the two talked for another hour. Jana had some similar dark secrets to share to let Jeremy understand that she truly empathized with him. I had to go back to my bartending as Jana offered to give Jeremy a ride home when the job was done. She brought out her best tractor, and the two began to excavate the witching well near the forbidding forest, which still stood. It seemed larger and darker now to Jeremy, even as he had grown much taller than his 9-year-old self. 36 years. How much has changed. I was surprised to have a busy night at the bar. My pies got eaten up and business died down quickly around 8:30 p.m. Give me time to clean, I thought to myself. I did the dishes and had the radio on full blast when in came Jana and Jeremy. Both looked relatively pale, as if they found what they were looking for, but it seemed more shocking to them than that. Say, Jana, didn't see you there. Jeremy? I turned off the radio. Clyde, you're not going to believe this. I'm sure I will, not knowing what they had to show me. Come on out, Lionel, Jana said. Just behind Jeremy came a 7-year-old boy with a blank expression on his face. I was confused because I thought if Lionel had survived, he'd have to be 43 by now. Jeremy and Jana and Lionel stared at me, and I stared at the young boy, Lionel. I got nervous and said, "Are you hungry? I have some apple pie in the fridge I can warm up for you, son." The little boy nodded, attempting a blank smile which quickly faded. I ran back to the fridge, not believing a word. Jana was right. It was merely not believable. I brought the pie out, forgetting a plate, and said I'd be right back with one when Lionel snatched the pie out of my hand and started eating the whole thing with his hands. And I said, "Very well. Can't say I blame the poor boy." Jeremy and Gina decided that it'd be best if Jeremy took custody of his own brother. When it dawned on him to ask his brother the real question we were all wondering, how are you still alive? Easy. Remember those comics about Superman you used to read to me? Yes, Lionel. Those are good times. I asked the wishing well if I could have superpowers. The adults looked at each other, then back at Lionel. I couldn't fly out, but I don't have a cape. But yet I age super slowly and don't have to eat. Say, mister, you got any more food? I immediately thawed out some steaks and started making some cornbread. It was going to be a long night to catch up with that boy's appetite.